being busy all the time is actually a trauma response. Like
Mhm,
something happened in your life where
mhm.
you learned that production equaled self-worth, or you got loved if you did more and more.
Hello and welcome back. Now, just before we get started, if you're watching this on the Total Somatics YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press a notification bell so whenever an episode appears, you find out very quickly. And also, if you haven't already checked my TED Talk out, you after this episode, obviously, but if you go to YouTube and you put in the search bar TEDx Heidi Hadley, you'll see my TEDx talk there. So give me a thumbs up and share with anyone you know it will resonate with, and please leave your comments. I'd really appreciate that. Okay, so today I'm joined by one of our wonderful friends that we've had together. We've done a lot over the time, and actually, there's more coming in the new year. So do have a look for that. But a wonderful friend called Melanie Cool. So Melanie is very passionate, and she's a really strong voice and an advocate for emotional well-being and resilience. So I've asked Melanie to come on today because we're getting towards the end of the year, and it's really nice to recap, also regulate and see how we are, and maybe reconnect again with ourselves if it's been a chaotic or turbulent like 12 months or so. So today, what we're going to do is explore the theme that is really important for us to consider today, because we live in a very fast-paced society, and that is how we're going to build true resilience through small daily shifts, because that's the key point there. And we're going to look at how we can redefine self care so it becomes meaningful, restorative, and sustainable. We're going to unpack the power of micro habits and how our nervous system responds to gentle change, and also why balancing productivity with rest can transform our energy. It can help with our focus and also create inner calm. So, whether you're walking the dog, you're driving in your car, you've got your feet up with your nice cup of tea, I hope you feel very much part of this conversation today, because Melanie and I would love you to know that you are part of our little hub here. And if we were with you, we would. I've got my cup of tea. I don't know if you've got yours, Melanie, but we're with you in spirit. So, do feel part of today's discussion. So, I'm going to first of all just welcome Melanie in. And we've been having a little chat before we came on here to record. But obviously, lots has happened since we last connected, Melanie. So, how are you? What have you been up to? And for anyone that is new to who you are, please can you share all your details and how wonderful you are and what all your skills, please.
Thank you, Heidi. It's always a joy to be here with you. I love our conversations so much. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Melanie Cool. I'm a health and happiness expert. I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm also a level 2 CrossFit trainer. I own She Shed CrossFit, and that's for women over 50 to get healthier and happier and stronger. And I have athletes in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s that are getting up and down off the floor and increasing bone density and muscle mass. It's just super fun. Um, so anyway, just a quick story about me. 10, almost 10, 9 years ago, when I was turning 50, I looked in the mirror. I didn't recognize myself. I was unhealthy. I was unhappy. I was in a bad marriage. And so I did something really wild and I started CrossFit. And then in CrossFit, not only did I lose 100 pounds, but I did that by establishing healthy habits. So I learned about drinking water, getting sleep, eating good food, and moving my body in CrossFit and also in gentle ways. And that really started what I consider self care, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But I noticed that when I did those health habits, along with the positive psychology, is what I focus on with my clients. And that focuses on expressing gratitude and living in the now and connecting with others and knowing who you are and how you fit in the world and where you want to go from here. When I combined the health habits with the happiness habits, the weight just came off. I wasn't focusing on weight loss. I was focusing on health and happiness, and weight loss is a side effect of that. And my journey has just been so incredible that I ended up writing a journal. That's a 6 week journey to health and happiness, which I'll just plug it. You can get it on Amazon. It's called
I'll
Get
also make
Healthy,
sure
Get Happy.
I'll put it in the show
Yeah,
notes as well, Melanie. So anyone that's watching this, they can click on the show notes and we'll put a link straight to your book.
thank you. So it's what I did, but it's rooted in the science of positive psychology and also in the science of health and wellness. So if you do it, it works. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just glad to be here today and, happy to answer any questions you might have. And yeah, let's go from here.
Brilliant. And I was going to say, Melanie, it will probably come out in our discussion, but we were both just talking before that it's been, I think when I reached out to you to say, can we do this episode together? We've both had quite a turbulent year, really. We've lost a parent each, so it's been pretty hard, and we were a little bit weepy eyed before we came on, and it will probably happen again, and it comes and goes. But I'm sure that will come in, and I also want us to make sure that some of the gems and the life lessons that our parents have taught us over the time also come into this. Because I was sharing with you how I was listening. I don't know if it was a podcast or something recently, how when we lose like a parent, we look at some of their strengths and the gems that they had, and we adopt those because we are part of them, and then we continue with that legacy of them and take it on. So looking at where their strengths were and continuing to honor them and to follow on, to continue that next generation, really. So that's why I thought this is important to share their little anecdotes or their expressions, but also to embody that practice and take that on. That's one way of reframing it to manage the grief, really.
Yes, right. And my mom said a good night's sleep fixes everything.
Yeah,
And sleep is one of the things in my journal. We all need sleep.
yeah, we
And if I
do.
don't have a good night's sleep, I can't regulate my emotions or my hormones or
Yeah,
or
yeah,
anything. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And although I don't know how this is going to link in, but can I share the one that I've already mentioned to you because it's so cool? My dad always says, think good thoughts, be very kind, be nice to people, because in the future, as the time goes on, your like reflection shows in what the inner person is, and you don't want to look like a bulldog chewing a wasp. So it's always work on the inner person, and then that glows as the years go on.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Right?
that's my
What
yeah.
would what would be the opposite of a bulldog chewing a wasp?
Oh,
What
I
would be
don't
the
know.
opposite?
I don't know.
Well,
I've
something
just
zen,
never wanted to look
something,
like a bulldog chewing a wasp, really.
right? So what do we want to look like? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to
Something
ask AI.
calm. Yeah.
Oh,
Sitting
brilliant.
in,
Well,
sitting in the lotus position, meditating.
yeah, that's right. Oh, brilliant. Well, what I've got here, Melanie, is I've got 4 points that I thought we could use as a bit of a framework to discuss today, weaving in all of this. So I've got like a little title for each with a few little pointers, and maybe we can just flow with that discussion if that's okay.
Sure.
So my first point that I've got here is building resilience through daily shifts. And I've put this comment saying that there's this myth that we have to have a big change. So people think we need to overhaul our life to make those shifts. But I want us to really consider the power of micro moments, because those micro moments have a compound effect. So it could be something like one slow, conscious breath before you open an email or a bank statement or whatever it is. But what are your thoughts on how we can build resilience through daily shifts?
Yeah. Well, when we think about resilience, we often imagine bouncing back from a crisis or
Mm,
a loss, but the real resilience is built before that happens. So it's the little things that we do every day that strengthen us, that feed us, that like we're like a battery. And, if we're just giving all the time, we're going to run out, right? So we have to charge our battery. And so it is the little things we do each day that make a big difference, like taking a few breaths, drinking a glass of water, uh, taking time to eat lunch, right? Uh, yeah, it's the little things we do every day that lead to big results, and that creates resilience. So then when there is a crisis, we're not completely depleted and we can still continue our self-care to get through it.
It's building that firm foundation by doing that, isn't it? It made me think of a tree at that point. So if we've got, you think of the roots of a tree, you know, they go deep, don't they? So that takes time. So when you get the
Mhm.
winds, you get everything, there's that stability, that deep foundation, like the tree with the root system. And it's for us, it's how we stay rooted or grounded in those situations. And it is that compound effect. It's those small shifts. And, you know, I don't know about you, but you look back over the years at all those small daily shifts that you've made, you look back and you're like, wow, that's actually overall a really big lifestyle change. But because it was subtle, but it's more, it's easier to maintain when they're small, as opposed to making those big shifts, and then you drop at the first little bit of whatever happens, and then you kind of feel really disappointed, and the negative narrative comes in, or the why did I let myself down, you know, all those expressions. So it's like if it's just little bits over the time, it creates that deeper, firmer foundation and stability when those different crises and seasons come along, isn't it?
Right. It's because those micro habits are contributing to your health and your happiness by reducing inflammation, by allowing your amazing body to do what it's meant to do in terms of your hormone regulation and things like that. So, just drinking an extra glass of water every day, going to bed an hour earlier every day, calling up that friend that you've been thinking about, going for a walk around the block. They're
Mm.
not big things, but the little things done consistently lead
Mm.
to big results.
Yeah. And it's like those little daily like somatic resets, as it were. I mean, it's kind of helping with your brain and body to create that safety from within, that stability, and also that adaptability, isn't it? So that because you want to stay safe from within when things are all chaotic elsewhere, it's that regulation from within which then manages your hormones. And of course, if your hormones are much more managed in those situations, as you say, less cortisol, less inflammation, it's not going to affect your sleep patterns at night. So it's those little resets to feel safe from within when there's so much uncertainty elsewhere.
Right. Like I said, if I don't get a good night's sleep, I
Yeah.
can't handle anything.
Yeah.
I'm a
And
mess. I'm a complete mess.
well, I mean, that's why sleep deprivation is a form of torture, really. You think
Mhm.
about it, you know, and we've done 2 flights this year back to England and come back to Australia, and the jet lag is terrible. You know, it's like 8 or 9 days before we got back into the time zone. And I've got clients that have come back from Europe, and they struggle as well. And they said, "Oh, I just wake up and you're wide awake at 2 a.m." And it's like, and that's what I've been saying to so many. That's why it's a form of torture. You can't operate. You feel drunk, really. You just cannot
Mhm.
focus if you don't get that sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I've got a second point here, which is reframing self care for modern life. So I've put a point here that I've said what we want to look at redefining self care as energy management, not pampering. So what we're doing is recognizing when to restore, pause, and reset. And what we start doing when we shift that and reframe is we're honoring our needs, not escaping life. So it starts to become a daily practice where we check in, not check out with ourselves, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that um, self-care is not an indulgence.
Yeah.
It's maintenance. Like it's it's required maintenance. It's somewhere along the way self-care became a buzzword and it got associated with spa days and candles and bubble baths, and I mean those are all great. And if you can do those, that's fantastic. But true self-care runs deeper
Yeah.
than that. It runs deeper. And, true self care is about managing managing our our energy and balancing productivity with restoration,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, that's what true self-care is about. It's about getting
Mm.
that balance in there between productivity and restoration so that you're managing your energy and you never feel completely depleted and
Mhm.
burned out and exhausted, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's not indulgent, it's essential maintenance.
Yeah. Well, I thought I've got a point here, and this might be where it goes deep. See what you think. But I put here that there can be a tension and a conflict from within between productivity and self-preservation, like you're mentioning. And often that's because society glorifies this busyness or having this badge of honor that we're a hustler or we've got the ability to multitask. And before we were talk beforehand, we were talking about how there's this society where you want to operate on just 4 hours of sleep, and of course it makes you even more successful. But we really need to check in on a regular basis to see what are our habits, what are we doing, what's our default patterns. Because there's a question I'd like to ask you here, which is, why do you think that people feel guilty for taking time out or having time to rest? It's a big subject, it's a big question, but what do you think?
Yeah, we could talk hours on that one, but
Yeah.
I'll try to make it quick. So I think the first reason is from a young age, we're taught that our worth is tied to our productivity. So the more you get done, the more worthy you are, or the better you perform, the more worthy you are. It's based on your productivity instead of who you are, right? Your worth, come on. Your worth is about who you are, not
Mm.
how much you get done. But
Yeah.
we're taught to go, 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 do, do, do. I mean, gosh, when I was a kid, I'd bring home a report card that had all A's and a B, and my dad would say, "You're capable of all A's." So it's like, the bar is
Yeah.
always higher, and we
Yeah.
never get there. And it's like a rat race to, try to get there, and we don't get there. And, I think a lot of us just feel like, and I mean, I have felt this way, and I still do sometimes. I think it's a lifelong journey to learn that you're worthy of self-care. It's okay to take care of yourself. But even I feel like sometimes if I'm not being productive, then I'm wasting time,
Hmm.
right? I'm
Yeah.
wasting time. But
Mm.
self-care is not a waste of time because if I take care of myself, then essentially I'm actually able to give more and do
Yeah.
more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's the first one is just that cultural conditioning that self-worth is tied to what you do, not who you are, you
Mm.
know.
Mm.
I think another one would be many of us are caretakers. We like to take care of people and we're like natural givers, parents, teachers, nurses, you, me, anyone in the
Mm.
helping profession,
Mm.
we we help people. And so when we start taking care of ourselves, then we might feel like, oh, I should be helping others, or I'm abandoning someone during this time because someone else needs my help, right? Um, but that's we shouldn't equate self-care with neglecting others because as I just said, the more we care for ourselves, the more we're then actually able to give to
Mhm.
others,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. um I think that probably another reason is many of us have unhealed beliefs about our own self-worth and self-love. um Being busy all the time is actually a trauma response. Like
Mhm.
something happened in your life where
Mhm.
you learned that production equaled self-worth, or you got loved if you did more and more. And I actually have a friend that just retired, and I asked her, "Why did you retire?" And she said, because you said being busy all the time is a trauma response. And
Yeah.
she took a look at
Yeah.
that and she was like, wow, you were right. And I don't want to live in that trauma anymore. And I'm going to
Mm,
slow down and I'm going to enjoy
mm,
my life and do
mm,
more of what I love and connect with others. And yeah. So I
mm,
think, we have unhealed beliefs about our self-worth. The
mm.
good news is that can be healed.
Yeah.
We can do that. Yeah. And then I think, just having that distorted view of self-care, that'd probably be the last one, that I put in there today. That when self-care is defined as a luxury, we feel
Mm,
like we don't deserve we don't deserve that, or we don't have time for that, we don't have the money for that, but when we can shift the belief to that self-care is actually maintenance of
mm,
my mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health, then the guilt can fade. We don't feel guilty anymore because it's like I want to be the healthiest, happiest version of me because that
mm,
feels good and I fit better in the world like
yeah.
that and my relationships improve, right?
Mm,
And I'm a
mm,
better member of my communities,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think just shifting the belief that it's not a luxury, it's maintenance. Yeah.
And
But I
it's
will
also,
tell you,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Nope.
Oh no, it was only a couple of things came out, and that was thinking how, and my husband and I always say this. We're always saying we're looking after our current and future health. So everything that we do, if it's little jobs around the house or jobs at work or well-being choices, life choices, it's always we're looking after our current and future self. We're always saying that. I'm sure other people kind of say the same thing. So it's looking at the bigger picture of how we take care and put value on ourselves now, but see ourselves as caring for ourselves when we're a bit older and we've got a few more aches and pains, and it just happens. Different things happen in life. So that was one point I was going to say. But there was another thing, is that constantly keeping busy as well is because sometimes people want to push down those emotions and those thoughts, whereas when it goes quiet and still, they can be really overwhelmed with any images or thoughts or emotions that come up, and it can be really uncomfortable because their baseline has just been go go go, because it's the fight flight response, isn't it? So there's that. But I often think it's, what are you pushing down? What do you not want to consider or notice or bring out? Does that make sense? It's repressing or
Oh,
pushing that
yeah.
emotion down.
Yeah. We are so terrified of sitting still
Mm-hmm.
because what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Feelings are going to happen. And who wants to feel those?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, yeah, that's hard work, right? But if we do allow that to happen, then it can get out of our body. I mean, that's what you do, right? You get
Mm-hmm.
stuck feelings out of our bodies. We need to do it. And we can't do that unless we stop, unless we slow down, unless we sit still, unless we breathe, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's terrifying for people. I have so many clients that just, yeah, they don't sit still. They can't. They're terrified. They're scared. They can't even have silence. Like they have their TV on all the time
Mm-hmm.
because they can't deal with silence, right? That's all trauma, trauma,
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah, and it can be a challenge as well, because on a neurophysiological level or neurobiological level, and when we're living in that constant fight flight stress response, or even if we're the feigning death and we go the other way, your brain produces its own natural endorphins, its own natural painkillers. So you actually get addicted to being in that state. So it's actually, there's the neurochemical aspect as well. So it can be a real challenge. It's like cutting off from the caffeine or cutting off from the chocolate is the equivalent of changing that state, because when we're living up there all the time, it is, you can, people might go, oh yeah, I can multitask, and it becomes a badge of honor of, I can do all of this, and then it feeds into feeling good because the endorphins come up. So it's like, it's not saying that in a negative way for people, but to identify that there's a lot of subconscious things that are going on which can take time. And that's why, if it's a micro moment or a micro habit, over time we can just start to get less dependent on the endorphins that our brain is producing, that makes us stay in that state and makes us feel good, as it were.
Hmm. Yeah, I've shared this story before, but I'll share it again because it's a good one. So, when I was starting my health and happiness journey, I was trying to figure out how to do self-care and how to sit still. And I would make coffee in the morning and I would leave my cup on the counter while I went to get ready, and then it would be cold, or I would take my coffee. Uh, into my bedroom while I was getting ready, and then I'd like spill it on my clothes, or I would take my coffee in out to my car, and then I would back out of my driveway and hear a crash because I had put it on the roof of my car. And so one of my goals when I started my health and happiness journey was just sit still and drink your coffee like while it's warm, and where you're not going to spill it on yourself or crash the mug off your car. And so I made my coffee and I sat down and I was like, oh gosh, now what? Now what? And I couldn't do it. And so then I paired it with a gratitude meditation where I would hold the coffee and think, oh, I'm so thankful for this coffee. It's warming my hand and it smells good. And where did this coffee come from? Oh, who grew these beans? How did these beans get to me? I'm so thankful I have the money to go to the store and buy the beans.
Yeah.
So I still had to like keep thinking something, but it kept me still so that I could finish my coffee. And I had a rule. I wasn't allowed to get up and go do anything, check email or social media or switch the laundry or do like I couldn't do anything until I finished my coffee.
Good,
And it
isn't it?
started
Yeah.
out, I had to do the gratitude meditation. Now I can just get my coffee and just sit there and I don't have to think anything.
Mm.
And I just
Yeah.
enjoy it. And I drink my coffee every morning without doing anything else. And it's lovely.
And a fantastic example of micro habits, micro moments, isn't it?
Yes.
Really. And now it's just
Yeah.
become a whole new shift. So yeah, it's pretty good. I tell you what, you can't beat. It's like I get into work before everyone else, because I like to have a bit of time before starting in clinic, and I'll just make myself. I've got my little green tea here, and I make it, and I'll just sit quietly before it gets busy and noisy, for the day with the clinic, and I'll sit there in the quiet, and you can't beat a good cup of tea, or if what people want, the coffee in the morning. It's just it's just great, when you actually take those little moments. And I think it's just that quiet, like you're doing, it's just that quiet moment before, things will just, there's lots of people that will be coming in and lots of things happening. It's just having those little quiet times, isn't it? I like them
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
other thing that I started doing was actually scheduling self-care on my calendar. So,
Mhm.
like, I have my bedtime on my calendar. So if people say, "Oh, can you do this at this time?" I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have a previous engagement." They don't need to know that it's oh, I just gave away my secret. But it's scheduled. And one thing I noticed is I was scheduling clients. I see a lot of people on Zoom,
Yeah.
coaching clients on Zoom, and I go all day long, every hour, right? And I wouldn't eat lunch, or I'd be, eating something 5 minutes before I'm getting on Zoom, or asking my client, is it okay if I eat lunch while we talk? And
Yeah.
I thought, this isn't good. So I took my calendar and I scheduled out an hour every day. It says lunch.
Mm.
So I don't schedule clients during that time. And I make myself a beautiful lunch and I sit down and I eat it. And if there's time left over, I maybe do some watercolors or I crochet, or maybe I'll go for a 10-minute walk, but it just changed my energy entirely for my days. to just
Mm,
take a break. So I
mm,
encourage you, like, get out your calendar, put in a morning routine, a
mhm.
lunchtime, and an evening routine, and
Yeah.
just block that time out for yourself. And I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot. Right now, I have 2 hours for my morning routine. I have an hour for lunch and 2 hours for my evening routine. It's great. You don't
Okay.
have to
Brilliant.
start there. We're talking micro, right? So schedule 20 minutes for
Yeah.
lunch.
No, it's
Start
brilliant.
somewhere.
Well, it's kind of you've made a point here where I put a little pointer on about there's a difference between surface level self care, which is like treats and distractions, and restorative self care, which is like nervous system regulation, boundaries, like with your scheduling, and slowing down. You know, instead of having your lunch on the go, actually having those boundaries, that schedule, and taking that time. And even if it's tempting that you think I'll finish my lunch, oh, I could get back on and finish those emails. But instead of that, you've gone, I'm going to do my watercolors. And that
Yep.
takes discipline,
Yep.
really takes discipline. Because you could start reframing it and going, well, if I do those emails now, I can knock off earlier. But you know what? There's always going to be emails.
Right. There
Yeah.
is. Yes. There's always going to be laundry. There's always going to be dishes. We're never done.
Yeah.
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 But we have to
Yeah.
take breaks. We have to do things that restore, recharge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And my dad always used to say, don't work too hard, Bab. Don't work too hard. He used to say that all the time because I know when he got towards the end of his life, he'd say, oh, I just wished I'd had a little bit more time with the children. But I said, look, Dad, if it wasn't for how you looked after us, we wouldn't have had the lovely life and the childhood we had. But you can see how one of the things that people talk about is wanting that time, and that's the one thing you cannot get back is time with
Right.
family, time with yourself, time to heal, time to repair. I think that's such an important thing. So, but obviously reassured him that it was thanks to him working really hard that we had such a lovely life. But you see, again he wanted to give us a good life, and there would have been a lot there as a little child that he wanted to bring us out of a lifestyle that he had as a little boy. So you can have that compassion and understanding. And then I think I'm going to take, like we were talking before, I'm going to take those strengths that my dad's got, just tweak them slightly so that we have our micro moments and habits, but ensure I keep that legacy going for him. So it just made me think that I thought, oh, I wanted to bring my dad out on that because that was a really key point that he mentioned a lot on reflection in the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah. I love our how we learn things from our parents
Mm,
that we keep doing. My dad died a few years ago as well, and he said that the only reason we are here is to impact the lives of others.
mm,
And I
yeah,
think about that every day. So,
yeah,
yeah, if I've impacted anybody's life at all, encouraging you to do self-care so that you can be healthier and happier, then I
yeah,
honored my dad.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and yeah, so I was going to say I've got a third point here. I'm just going to stay on tracks and keep
Yeah.
those tears back a little bit, Melanie. so,
Yeah.
but yeah, on that third point, and balancing productivity with restoration. So here again, it's kind of reiterating what I mentioned in that previous point that busyness can become like a badge of honor, really. But we've seen this. I'm sure you can attest to this, but we've seen both in our professional and personal life experiences how overproductivity can lead to burnout and disconnection. Could be disconnection from our social circle if we're just not connecting with family and friends. It could be disconnection from our closest relationships or from ourselves as well. And that disconnect again is part of that trauma response if we're going into that go go go. So just wanting to think there's a couple of things I wrote here is having that balance between effort versus ease, doing versus being, and productivity versus recovery. So I don't know what your thoughts on balancing productivity with restoration.
Well, I'm thinking about what I did with my calendar, right? Putting in my morning routine, my lunchtime, and my evening routine. That's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Was trying to get some more balance. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because go, 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 we're just ending up overwhelmed, burned out, and exhausted, right? But if we
Hmm.
can balance it, then we don't burn out. We're actually building emotional stamina. We're getting stronger, right? Yeah. I think also when we slow down, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but when we start to slow down and give ourselves these breaks, we look at what's really important in our lives, and we have a limited amount of energy, and we get to decide how we use that energy. We get to decide what we want to digest, not only in terms
Hmm.
of food, but in terms of news or social media or even people. Those people,
Hmm.
when you're done, you're exhausted. Whereas there's other people in your life, when you're done, you're energized, right?
Hmm.
But we get to take a look at what is giving us energy, what feeds us, and also what we put our energy into. And is it just a drain that's sucking it all out of you, you
Hmm.
know? Or do you give and you also get? Or do you
Hmm.
give and you can also replenish it? But we can't see any of that when we're just busy all the time because
Hmm.
it's a distraction from getting to the root of our health and happiness.
And also, when we have that space, that's when we get more creative. Or in like our situation this year, you become much more self-reflective. Because I don't think I said this to you before we started recording. I was saying it to somebody the other day, a friend of mine, and I just said, it makes you self-reflective because I've really shifted and changed a lot of my schedule this year. So there's much more time for self-care and things. But, in the grand scheme of things, it's like I said to this friend the other day, I said, when there's people making big issues about things that are pretty trivial, you put it into context really. And I go, well, I've lost my dad. That's a really
Hmm.
big thing. And what you're trivializing about is actually quite petty. And in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Because you can get caught so much in this dramatization, a catastrophizing of everything. But you just got to make the time. Um, how long we've got, we don't know. And we need to just make our time count. And it makes me think of the expression, you probably heard it before, we're human beings, not human doings. So we want to be in the
Yes.
moment and do these things because it's like we were talking the other day and we were like, we can't believe the age we are now. We feel like we're 25 still. But you just realize how time just goes on. And it's just doing these things now that means that we're taking care of ourselves, but putting everything into context, really, and not getting sucked into that vortex, that drama, catastrophizing. And that, again, like what you're saying, is what feeds into what we feed our mind. So is it the news? Is it social media? Is it energy vampires with people that we've associated with? Do we really feel that we're energized by them, or do we feel drained by them? Is that something we need to reassess in our life as we move forward? Because it was just so by chance that at the start of the year, and I might have shared it with you, I was at a trauma conference here in Adelaide, and I looked behind me and I saw a friend that I studied with at college 28 years ago, and she lives in like 13-minute drive from my house. I've never seen her in all these years. She's been in Adelaide about 25 years or something like that. I've been here 15 and a half years. We've never seen each other, but we got chatting. We catch up now, and she came up with a really great expression, which I'm sure you've heard, but it means more now when you think of balancing things and putting things in perspective and restoration. And she just said, people come into your life for a season or a reason, and we can use it for growth and development. And it just helps to refine who we are and where we're moving through life. I just thought it was a really good point, and I just thought I'd bring that in because again, it's where we're reassessing that balance of what we're doing, and can we just take time out for that self-reflection of and that creativity of what we can do to take care of ourselves. And then, as you said earlier, when we charge that battery up, then we've got so much more to give to those around us.
Hmm. Yeah, and life. life is important, right? So
Mm,
when we take care of ourselves, we can actually let go of the past
mm,
and move forward. And that's the best gift that you can give yourself is to live fully right here, right now, and
mm,
decide where you want to go from here. And like you
mm,
said, time is precious. Time is precious, right? We don't know how
mm.
much we have. So,
Yeah,
do we want to spend it go, 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 go? No.
yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah. I mean, I've because of that go go go, I've actually put a couple of little pointers here, if that's all right with you. It was
Yeah.
basically I've put a couple of little tips of just having little mindful movement breaks. So if we're doing something, getting up. I mean, before we went live, before we started recording, we were talking a bit about our parents and the loss and things. And then that's why I was like, I'll just shake my body out because I just thought I wanted to shift, get our energy so that we can give and just change our state of our nervous system. But those mindful movement breaks throughout the day just shift our nervous system state. They'll free up any tension, anything that we're holding. So little things like that, or a breathing sequence that I share with people quite often is, you don't have to put a timer on. You just do a few moments and notice internally when you feel that shift or that calmness. And there's a breath, like I call it, like the breath prescription. And basically, it's inhale through your nose for 7 counts, hold for 4, and then exhale through your mouth for 8 counts, and then just continue that. And if you've got your eyes closed doing that somewhere really quiet, that is so powerful. And after like 2 or 3, 4, 5, you actually just feel this calm. So I always say it's 7, 4, 8. So inhale for 7 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 8, and just do that throughout the day just to continue regulating your nervous system. And then just another thing here is those intentional breaks or pauses in your day that you can recharge. And I've put a big red cloud or circle around this little point, so I've got my notes here about
Yeah.
digital boundaries. Digital
Oh, yeah.
boundaries. And that's, I mean, I've got a watch on, but all my notifications are switched off on it. It just tells me my
Mhm.
heart rate, steps, and time. But if you can switch off those notifications, have your phone on silent and turn the vibrate off away from you as you just have that break. Because, you and I lived in a time years ago where we didn't have our phones, we had answer phone machines, and we would have a life, enjoy life. And then at the end of the day, or at different points periodically, we would check the answer phone machine. We lived very happy, good lives then. But for some reason now we've got this fear that if we're not picking up the phone because somebody might just have an accident, and the chances of that are very slim, but we have fear built into, I can't let that phone be away from me. So it's
Yeah.
having those boundaries.
Yeah, I keep my sound off on my phone. All my notifications are turned off. I want to control my phone. I don't want my phone controlling me. I mean, I do
Yeah,
look at it during the day, of course,
yeah, cool.
but yeah, I don't want it. Every time you hear a ding on a notification, what happens in your
Hmm.
brain? Yeah,
Yeah,
you get a cortisol release. Huh.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
it's stress over and over and
Hmm.
over. And cortisol's not good.
Hmm.
Causes
And
all
I was
kinds
going to
of
say
problems.
in last week's podcast, I mentioned Pavlov's dogs and how the conditioning of Pavlov's dogs is the same conditioning we get now with our phone. We are
Right.
constant, can you remember with the Pavlov experiment
Yep.
and things? And it's that constant conditioning that, in the end, it rules our life basically. Well, it can rule our life if we're not putting those boundaries
So
in.
there's a self-care micro habit. Turn off your notifications.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I don't know
And
what
limit
I
your
don't.
time on social media. So a lot of
Yeah.
my clients think that self-care is sitting down and scrolling Instagram, and it's
Mm,
not. That's a distraction that is doing nothing to feed you. If anything, it's draining you because it's bombarding you with all kinds of messages about the world that you have no
mhm,
control over, and also all of the quick fixes for your beauty, for
mm,
health and wellness, and take this pill or do this program. And there are no quick fixes.
mm,
So, stay off of social media or set a timer. Allow yourself a few minutes if you want to check up on your friends and family and see fun pictures and, have a positive news feed, that's okay, but you really want to limit it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, because the
drain.
research has shown how much it affects mental health as well. Because, if you're having a bit of a rubbish day and you feel a bit low, and then you think, oh, I'll doom scroll, like, so that's what they call it down there. I think that's what the expression is, doom scroll. But when you're
Yeah,
just scrolling through, basically social media is smoke and mirrors. It's not real life. It's all
right.
fake. So people
Yeah,
look at that and they think, wow, they're having a great life, they've got all this, that, and the other. But I think, do you know what, when people are having a really good time, when they don't take their phone out to take photos, they completely forget about their phone because they're actually enjoying the moment. That's when you know you're
right.
having a good time. You don't have to get the phone
Yeah,
out to share everyone else. If,
yeah,
it's a good time. So yeah,
right.
that's when you know you're having a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Device addiction is a
Yeah.
real thing.
Too right it is.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
put it down.
too right. Now I've got a fourth point here. So the fourth and final point, which is integrating resilience and self-care to everyday life. So I've put here, and it's kind of a roundup really of what we've been talking about, but I've put self-care doesn't need to take hours. It's those small rituals and choices. Again, expression micro moments of movement, mindfulness during the day. And that those micro movements may be noticing our posture, softening our breath, unclenching our jaw, like you mentioned, taking water, drinking your water, getting hydrated. Because I've put here a note that somatic awareness, which is what all of that is, helps us to tune into what the body truly needs rather than following the external expectations. And really, we want to make self care non negotiable but flexible so that it can adapt to life seasons. And then, just one more point, if I can bring this in, is the importance of noticing change rather than chasing perfection, which kind of ties in with what we were talking about with social media as well.
Or
It's
I'm
wonderful
capable
how
of
these
all
conversations
A's.
flow.
Right.
Sorry, what
Yeah,
was
I'm
that?
capable of all A's. Right. I know.
Yeah.
Perfection. We don't need to be perfect. We can't
No, we
be
certainly
perfect. There is no
no.
perfect.
If we were perfect, it would be boring.
True.
Because we'd
Yeah.
have nothing to work on, nothing to grow from. We wouldn't have
Right.
any life lessons because if we were perfect, it's like, well, we've got nothing to learn from, have we? So it's like
Yeah.
and that's what life is about. Again, bringing my dad into this, he called it the university of life. And that's what it is, really. It's the
It
university of
is.
life. You learn so
Mm-hmm.
much over the years and you grow and develop. And my mum always says, you can't put an old head on young shoulders. And it's true. And you think, if only the experience, the wisdom you have when you get older, if only you could put that on your younger self or go back and go, everything's going to be fine. I don't know how I
Right.
digressed into that, but I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
I think, there's lots of micro habits that we can just work into our day and
Hmm.
maybe pick one or two or three and just start doing them. And like I said, it can be easy as drinking an extra glass of water or
Hmm.
taking 3 deep breaths before you check your email, or taking lunch away from your desk,
Hmm.
standing up and stretching, going outside, or making your bed. And I mean, I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I'm not asking you to do all of these things. I'm just saying pick one or two or three and do them every day consistently. Actually, you could do this. You could rate your level of well-being from 0 to 10. Like, how good do you feel on your health and your happiness? 0 to 10. 10 is amazing, right? I don't think anybody's a 10. But,
Hmm.
let's say a lot of my clients maybe rate themselves a 3 or a 4. And then they do maybe one, two, or three of these things every day for 30 days. And then they rate their happiness again. Guess what? They're a 5, they're a 7, they're a 9. It goes up. You have control over your well being, you have control over your health and happiness. So
Yeah.
make your bed or brush your teeth or write down something you're grateful for. You know,
Yeah.
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 Look outside, enjoy the view. There's
Yeah.
little tiny things you can do each day that
Yeah.
directly increase your well-being.
Yeah. And they don't cost anything either.
They
They're not
don't cost
expensive.
anything and you're worth it. And if
Too
you don't
right.
believe it, just tell yourself, I'm worth it. I'm worth
Yeah.
it. I'm worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I can
Too
sit
right.
and do watercolors. I'm worth it.
It is, and there's a little asterisk point. We've got another point here that reminds me of that, and it's that the resilience grows in the moments that we choose to pause or do our watercolors, listen and respond gently rather than push harder. So again, it's looking at what society has. It's always about working hard, pushing hard, hustler, all that sort of stuff, and it's actually shifting away from that and realizing how we need to really nurture. And I think once you bring that in, when you start to go or you get involved, or somehow you're an observer in somebody's activities where they're still in that high functioning anxiety, go, 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 you can almost start to feel like, oh, I can feel like almost like that polyvagal effect that you're connecting with someone else. You can feel everything turning and dialing up, and you think, wow, I realize now how all those micro movements have just decompressed or just lowered that. So my base level is the base level is not go, 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 but we've actually have that resilience and flexibility in our nervous system now.
Yes, absolutely. I would also mention a lot of my clients feel like they don't have time for self-care. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you could keep track of what you're doing with your time. You
Mm-hmm.
have time. Trust me, you have time. Like, I mean, if you're spending an hour scrolling social media, you could stop doing that, and there's a whole hour
Mm-hmm.
for whatever you want to do for your own self-care, right?
and
Like,
and that's that limiting belief, isn't it? So there's again
yeah.
something behind that limiting belief when people say I don't have time. We all
Mhm.
have that same amount of time in the day, but it's how we schedule our time really and
Or I
prioritize it. And
don't
as you
have
say,
money.
yeah,
I
that's
don't have
right.
money. Well, you don't need
Yeah,
money to drink a glass of water or take 3 deep breaths.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or other people won't let me,
Mm.
if you're taking care of a family. Um, I used to lock myself in the bathroom when my babies were knocking on the door, and I'm like, just give me 5 minutes,
Yeah. Well,
But you can get creative and figure it
yeah.
out.
Well, I'm holding workshops at the moment here in Adelaide, and then also doing online ones on regulating your nervous system. And something that I just brought out again was the 748, the breathing prescription. And I said, if you're at work or again you're in demand with little ones around, there's nothing stopping you just going into the loo, shutting the door. Either if you're sitting on the loo doing your business, or you're just sitting on the loo to get a peace and quiet, you could sit on the toilet with the door shut and do 3 of those 748 or 5 of them if you can. And you just have those little moments that you can just do that. Close your eyes on the loo and just do those breaths because no one can get you then. And you just certainly don't take your phone in. That's a bit gross anyway. But don't take your phone in, leave it out, for that reason. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, anybody can do that.
Yeah, they do, right. And we all have to go to the loo. So
Right.
yeah, we can use that. Anyway, I was going to say,
That's the
so
benefit of
before
drinking
we
more
kind of,
water. You get to go to the loo more often.
that's very good. That's very, oh, very good idea. Yeah. And then you get your movement in as well because you're
Right.
you're walking to the toilet. Yeah. So there you go.
And you're getting
You've
away from your
solved
desk.
everyone's day. Now, I was going to say before we kind of sign off with anything, is there anything that you want to share? Obviously, I'm going to put in the show notes your book, that link. But is there anything that you feel that we haven't discussed that you want to bring out that people can benefit from and that we can benefit from too?
I just think that the biggest thing is shifting our beliefs about self-care and that, it's okay. It's okay
Yeah,
to take care of yourself. And the benefit is then you're a nicer person to the people around you.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
And I think,
Yeah,
self-care is very attractive. People who take care of themselves, it's attractive, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's true.
So, and you're in charge of your self-care. You're in charge of your routine, and you don't have to feel overwhelmed, burned out, and exhausted. You can make some very small changes that will
Mm,
help you feel better instantly.
mm,
And if you need any help figuring that out, you can
mm,
email me and I'll help
yeah,
you. Yeah, I'll meet with you on Zoom and figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, and you're not alone. We all struggle with this. I didn't
Mm,
start focusing on this, until I was 50 years old. So I sure
mm,
am glad I started when I did.
yeah. Yeah.
You
And it's
know.
yeah, there was a point I was going to say and I completely forgot. It'll probably come back to me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Things happen, don't they?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we
Oh.
don't, I'll just say we don't need to overhaul our entire life, you know, for self-care in order to feel stronger or calmer. We just need to start where we are. Like it doesn't
Mm,
matter where you've been or where you want to go from here. It just matters right here, right now, um, where you are, and you can make profound changes in your life with one small intentional shift at a time, like
mm,
doing the breathing. Like if you don't
mm,
do anything else that you've heard today, do Heidi's breathing technique once,
mm.
twice, or three times. I have a client, every time she's at a red light, she does her
Yeah.
deep breathing,
Yeah.
you know.
I've got
So
I've,
if they,
I've got people that, yeah. I've got
yeah,
people that do the same thing at the red lights. Yeah,
yeah.
I've got them doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. And resilience isn't built in those big moments. It's built in the ordinary ones, or or the small quiet choices that you make that nobody
Mm,
knows about adds up to a stronger you and a healthier, happier you.
yeah. And I've remembered my point, which is with what you're mentioning, is that over the years and continue to do, like you're the same, continuing to do studies and qualifications and things, is the more you come to appreciate how intelligent our soma is, our whole mind and body. And all it ever wants to do is come back to a state of balance, or they call it homeostasis. And so what you realize is that you've got this innate intelligence, but we let all life and chaos kind of create that dysregulation or that disruption. But it's like taking those micro moments means it allows for the intelligence that we have from within to create that state of balance. All our body ever wants to do is to repair and recuperate. And it's incredible when you realize how much the lifestyle choices we make can either really enhance our well-being, or they can be a detriment to our current and our future health, bringing that back in. So it's remembering that, as you say, it's the breathing, it's the water, it's the movement, it's all of those things, that when we bring in those little skills and those tools, our body is very receptive, going, oh, now I'm ready. Now I can feel
Right?
that I'm coming back into that state of balance. And like I mentioned earlier, that the endorphins can make us addictive to staying in that stress state. We can start to shift the state of our nervous system to actually feel addicted to thinking, I actually like being in this calm. This feels better than what it was before. That is overrated compared to this, and it's that
Right?
sort of thing. But remembering it's trusting the process, and trusting, which can be a big issue with a trauma response, trusting ourselves. And if that means with the 748 breath, we hold our belly and we hold our chest to come back to our home, to come back to ourselves. If that's another way to just decompress and come back to here, then we know everything else will do the work internally, because it's so incredible. The human body is so incredible. Just
Right.
big fan.
What would it be like? What would it be like for your head and your heart and your soul to all line up together and say, thank you?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what self care will do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I've put here, even though I shouldn't have to look at my conclusion notes, but I did. I was writing this with my inspirational music beforehand, and I put thank you so much, Melanie, and a thank you to everyone else for listening. I hope that you've been inspired to see that resilience and self care can be viewed in a completely different light. And I've put small, consistent shifts create lasting change, which I think has been repeated many times today in this episode, but it's a repetition for emphasis. We need that. We need that to keep bringing that back, to bringing it as a regular practice. So yeah, the more we keep doing this, we will, as I say, look after our current and our future health and well-being. So
Absolutely.
it's been an absolute honor to have you here today, Melanie. And as
Thank
I said,
you.
it's been a bit of a year, but a year ahead of growth, and how we can be incredibly grateful that we've had wonderful parents. Well, I've still got my lovely mom, but we've had a lovely childhood, and then we've got wonderful memories. So it's being appreciative of that, really, that we've had a wonderful experience of life with them. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's always a joy chatting with you.
I know. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Check out the show notes below for Melanie. Do you want to do another big I will stop talking and you talk so you can show your book up to the screen?
Sure, my journal. It's called Get Healthy, Get Happy. It's a 6-week journal to health and happiness, and it's available on Amazon. So, whatever country you live in, you can get my journal.
Bless you. That is absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much again, Melanie. And thank you. We're both blowing kisses to all of you here. And so if you're still walking your dog, or if you finished your drive, or if you finished your cup of tea, I hope you feel thoroughly inspired by our episode today. And until next time, we're sending all our love and all our very best wishes to wherever you're watching this in the world. So take care. See you soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.